Captain Jake Morrison walked through the long hallways of New Geneva Station. His black uniform was clean and pressed. The Earth Defense Fleet badge on his chest caught the light as he moved. Today was important. Today, humanity would speak to the galaxy for the first time. The station was huge. It floated in space between Earth and Mars. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked here every day. Morrison had seen many strange beings during his week on the station. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of pure energy. A few looked almost human but had blue skin or extra arms. Morrison reached the big doors of the council chamber. 2 guards stood there. One was a tall alien with 4 eyes. The other looked like a walking tree. They nodded at Morrison and opened the doors. The chamber was round and very large. Seats went up in circles like an old stadium. Hundreds of aliens sat in those seats. They all turned to look at Morrison as he walked to the center. A platform rose from the floor. Morrison stepped onto it. Ambassador Veltar spoke first. He was from the Zephyrian Empire. His body looked like a giant praying mantis, but he had clear wings that made sounds when he moved. His voice came through a small device that changed his alien words into English. "Welcome, human," Veltar said. "We are happy to hear from Earth's newest member of our great coalition. What do you wish to tell us?" Morrison took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech many times. "Thank you for listening to me. I come here with important news. Our ships have found something dangerous moving toward our galaxy." He pressed a button on his wrist. A big screen appeared in the air above him. It showed pictures and numbers from Earth's long-range sensors. The screen displayed dark space beyond the galaxy's edge. Red dots moved in patterns across the darkness. "These are energy readings from our most powerful sensors," Morrison said. "We found them 6 months ago. The readings show something very large moving through space. These things are not natural. They move with purpose. They are coming toward us." Many aliens in the chamber began to talk among themselves. Some made clicking sounds. Others buzzed like insects. Morrison could hear some of them laughing. High Counselor Nexus spoke next. Nexus was from the Ethereal Collective. His body was made of bright energy contained inside a shimmering field. When he spoke, his voice sounded like music mixed with static. "Young Captain Morrison," Nexus said, "your species has been traveling in space for less than 100 years. We have kept peace in this galaxy for thousands of years. Our sensors are much better than yours. They have found no such danger." More aliens laughed. Morrison felt his face get hot, but he kept talking. "I understand your doubts," he said. "But please look at this data. These readings show intelligence. They show coordination. Something out there is organizing these energy sources. They are all moving toward our galaxy at the same time." The screen changed to show more detailed readings. Morrison pointed to different parts of the data. "Here you can see the patterns. Natural phenomena do not move like this. These signatures appear in groups. They change direction together. They are following the same route toward the most populated systems in our galaxy." An alien that looked like a giant jellyfish floated forward. This was Counselor Blix from the Aquatic Federation. Her voice bubbled when she spoke. "Captain Morrison, your concern is touching," Blix said. "But you must understand something. Every new species thinks they see threats everywhere. When we first found space travel, we also jumped at shadows. You will learn that space is mostly empty and safe." Morrison tried again. "With respect, counselors, this is not about fear. This is about facts. Our computers have analyzed these readings for months. The probability that these are natural events is less than 1%. Something intelligent is coming, and it is very large." He showed them more pictures. The screen displayed size comparisons. The energy signatures were enormous. Each one was bigger than most space stations. Veltar's wings buzzed loudly. "Even if your readings are correct, which we doubt, the Coalition has the strongest military in the galaxy. We have defeated every threat for 1,000 years. No enemy has ever been able to challenge our combined fleets. That is exactly why you should listen," Morrison said. His voice was getting louder. "Your strength comes from working together, but you need time to prepare. You need to know what is coming before it arrives." The aliens talked among themselves again. Morrison could tell they were not taking him seriously. Some were still laughing. Others looked bored. A few seemed annoyed that he was wasting their time. Nexus raised one glowing hand for silence. "Captain Morrison, we thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. However, the Coalition Science Council has reviewed your data during this meeting. Their conclusion is that your sensors detected natural stellar phenomena. probably old supernovas or gravitational waves from distant events. Morrison felt his heart sink. But the patterns you see are coincidences, Veltar said. Your human minds are designed to find patterns even where none exist. It helped you survive on your primitive world. But space is different. You will learn this with time. The chamber filled with the sounds of agreement. Aliens clicked, buzzed, and hummed their support for the counselor's words. Morrison made one last try. If I am wrong, you lose nothing by preparing your defenses. If I am right and you do nothing, billions of lives could be lost. Blix floated closer to the platform. Young Captain, preparation costs resources. It causes fear among our people. We cannot mobilize entire fleets because of one species' sensor readings. The Coalition Council votes to thank Earth for its enthusiasm, but to take no action on this matter. Lights appeared over the seats as the aliens voted. Green lights meant yes to Morrison's warning. Red lights meant no. Morrison watched as red lights filled the chamber. Only a few green lights appeared, scattered among hundreds of red ones. The vote is complete, Nexus announced. The Coalition will not act on this warning. We suggest that Earth focus on learning about peaceful galactic civilization, instead of looking for threats that do not exist. Morrison felt anger rising in his chest, but he controlled it. He was representing all of humanity today. He could not lose his temper. I understand your decision, he said, but humanity will continue to monitor these signals. When proof comes, we hope you will remember this day. The platform lowered Morrison back to the floor. He walked toward the doors as aliens continued their conversations. Most had already forgotten about his warning. They were talking about trade agreements and cultural exchanges. As Morrison reached the doors, he saw Admiral Lisa Hayes waiting for him. She was the head of Earth's Strategic Command. Her face was serious but not surprised. How did it go? She asked as they walked together. Exactly as we expected, Morrison said. They think we are young and stupid. They believe their technology is perfect and their enemies are all defeated. Hayes nodded. Then we proceed with Protocol Omega? Morrison looked back at the council chamber doors. He could still hear the aliens laughing and chatting inside. They felt safe in their perfect galaxy. Yes, he said. We prepare for war. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood in the command center on Earth. Banks of screens showed star maps from across the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies. Green dots showed coalition worlds. For 6 months, everything had been quiet. Too quiet. The first alarm came at 0347 hours Earth time. Lieutenant Carl Adams was monitoring the Outer Rim communications when his screen went black. Admiral, Adams called out. I just lost contact with New Olympia. Hayes walked over to his station. New Olympia was a mining colony on the very edge of the galaxy. It had 20,000 people working there. Try again, Hayes said. Maybe it's just equipment failure. Adams worked at his controls for several minutes. His face grew worried. No response, Admiral. Not even automated signals. It's like the whole colony just disappeared. Hayes felt a cold feeling in her stomach. She had hoped Morrison's warning was wrong, but deep down she knew it was true. Keep trying to reach them, she ordered. Send a message to the nearest coalition patrol. Ask them to check on New Olympia. 2 hours later, another alarm sounded. This time it was Outpost 7, a small research station 3 light years from New Olympia. Then Kepler Mining Station went silent. Then Paradise Falls, a farming world with 50,000 people. Hayes watched the communications board as red lights appeared one by one. Each light meant another human colony had stopped transmitting. They were falling in order like dominoes being knocked down. Admiral, called Commander Roy Fisher from the intelligence station. Coalition Command is reporting the same thing. They're losing contact with Outer Rim worlds too, not just human colonies. Hayes moved to the main display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy's edge. Red X marks appeared where colonies had gone silent. The pattern was clear. Something was moving through space, destroying everything in its path. Get me Captain Santos on the UES Vengeance, Hayes ordered. Tell her to take her squadron to the last known position of New Olympia. I want to know what happened there. While they waited for Santos to reach New Olympia, more colonies went dark. The speed was terrifying. Whole worlds with millions of people were going silent in hours. Hayes tried to calculate how fast the attackers were moving. The numbers made no sense. Nothing could destroy entire planets that quickly. 3 days later, Santos sent her report. Her voice was shaky when she spoke. Admiral, New Olympia is gone. Not destroyed, Gone. The planet is still here, but it's gray and lifeless. All the oceans are empty. All the land is bare rock. There are no plants, no animals, no people. It's like something sucked all the life out of the world. Hayes closed her eyes. Morrison had been right. Something terrible was coming, and it was worse than anyone had imagined. Did you find any clues about what did this? Hayes asked. We found some wreckage in orbit, Santos said. Pieces of ships, but not human ships. The metal is strange. It looks almost alive. And Admiral, there's something else. We detected massive energy readings moving toward the core systems. Whatever did this is heading for the populated worlds. Hayes activated the emergency protocols. Red alerts went out to every human ship in space. All military vessels were ordered to return to Earth immediately. All civilian ships were told to stay in safe systems. But the coalition was different. They moved slowly. Their leaders wanted to study the situation before acting. They formed committees to discuss the threat. They sent diplomats to negotiate with an enemy they had never seen. Fleet Admiral Chen Rodriguez commanded the coalition defense force. He was a proud man from the warrior planet, Nexar. His people had fought in many battles, but always against other civilized species. They did not understand what they were facing. Rodriguez gathered the largest fleet in coalition history, 500 ships from dozens of different worlds. They flew toward the outer rim to face the unknown enemy. Hayes watched the battle through long-range sensors. It should have been a great victory. The coalition ships were powerful and their crews were brave. But the enemy was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The alien ships were alive. They looked like enormous sea creatures swimming through space. Their hulls pulsed with strange lights. When coalition weapons hit them, the wounds healed in seconds. When they fired back, their weapons ate through coalition shields like acid. The battle lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, most of the coalition fleet was destroyed. The few ships that escaped brought terrible news. The enemy could change their ships during battle. If a weapon worked once, it would not work again. The creatures learned and adapted faster than any computer. Rodriguez himself died when his flagship was swallowed by a ship the size of a moon. His last message was simple. They cannot be stopped. God help us all. The enemy called themselves the Devourer Fleet. They sent messages across the galaxy in every known language. The messages were always the same: we consume. We grow. We are eternal. Resistance is pointless. Hayes stood in her command center and watched the galaxy burn. Every day brought news of more worlds consumed. The Devourers did not just kill people. They ate everything. Plants, animals, even the air itself. They turned living worlds into empty rocks. The coalition tried to fight, but their fleets were no match for the enemy. The Devourers' ships grew larger with every victory. They absorbed the destroyed coalition vessels into their own hulls. They became stronger by feeding on their enemies. General Peter Collins joined Hayes in the command center. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. The outer rim is lost, he said. Refugee ships are fleeing toward the core worlds. The coalition is in full retreat. Hayes nodded. She had been expecting this news. How long until they reach Earth? At their current speed, maybe 6 months, Collins said. But they're accelerating. Each world they consume makes them faster. Hayes turned to look at the intelligence reports. The numbers were staggering. In just 2 months, the Devourer fleet had consumed over 100 worlds. Billions of people were dead or missing. The coalition military was broken and scattered. The Coalition Council is calling for emergency peace talks, Collins said. They want to try negotiating with the Devourers. Hayes almost laughed. Negotiate with creatures that eat entire planets? The alien leaders still don't understand what they're dealing with, Collins said. They think every problem can be solved with words and treaties. They've been at peace so long they've forgotten how to fight a real war. Hayes walked to the secure communication panel. She entered her personal codes and opened a channel to the secret bases in the asteroid belt. For 6 months, human engineers had been working around the clock on projects that violated several galactic treaties, projects that the coalition would never have approved. This is Admiral Hayes, she said into the microphone. Authorization code Omega 77. Begin final preparations. We're going to war. The voice that answered was calm and professional. Understood, Admiral. All vessels will be ready within 72 hours. Weapons testing is complete. Targeting data has been uploaded to all ships. Hayes cut the connection and turned back to Collins. Send a message to Captain Morrison. Tell him to prepare his speech for the Coalition Council. Collins looked confused. What speech? Hayes smiled, but it was not a happy smile. The one where we tell them that humanity is taking over this war. The one where we stop asking for permission and start giving orders. Outside the command center windows, Earth looked peaceful and blue. But in the darkness of space, human ships were already moving toward the battle zones, ships that no alien had ever seen before. Ships built for one purpose, to hunt and kill the Devourer fleet. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's warning. Now humanity would show them what real war looked like. The Devourers thought they were the ultimate predators. They were about to learn that they were wrong. Humanity had been fighting and killing for thousands of years. They had perfected the art of violence long before they reached the stars. The aliens had forgotten how to fight. Humans had never stopped learning how to kill. The real war was about to begin. Captain Maria Santos watched the tactical display in her command chair. The UES Vengeance floated in dark space near the ruins of Kepler Station. 3 Devourer hive ships were feeding on the wreckage. Each ship was huge, the size of a small moon. Their organic hulls pulsed with sick green light. Santos had been waiting for this moment for 6 months. While the coalition retreated in panic, humanity had been preparing. The ship around her was proof of that preparation. The Vengeance looked nothing like the clean white ships that humans had shown to the galaxy. This ship was black as space itself. Its hull absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Its weapons were hidden behind armor plating that could slide away in seconds. "All ships report ready," said Lieutenant Alex Turner from the communications station. "The fleet is in position." Santos looked at her tactical officer, Commander Rachel Moore. "Are the Devourers aware of us?" "No, Captain," Moore replied. "Their sensors are focused on the station debris. They don't know we're here." Santos smiled. It was a cold smile that her crew had learned to fear. "Then let's introduce ourselves. All ships attack Pattern Delta. Show them what humans do to things that eat our people." The Vengeance dropped its stealth systems and appeared on every sensor in the area. Behind it, 20 more human ships materialized out of nothing. They had been waiting invisible in the darkness like sharks preparing to strike. The Devourer ships reacted immediately. Their hulls began to change color and shape. Weapons ports opened along their sides. They started to turn toward the human fleet. They were too slow. Santos pressed the firing button herself. "Fire everything." The space around Kepler Station lit up like a new sun. But these were not the energy weapons that coalition ships used. These were weapons designed by humans who understood that some enemies could not be reasoned with or captured. They could only be destroyed. Plasma cannons fired streams of matter heated to the temperature of a star's core. The beams cut through the Devourer ships' hulls like hot knives through butter. The organic armor that had protected them from coalition weapons melted away in seconds. Quantum disruptors sent waves of energy that tore apart the molecular bonds holding the ships together. The Devourer's ability to heal and adapt meant nothing when their basic structure was being unmade at the atomic level. Nanite swarms spread across the hulls of the enemy ships. These tiny machines were programmed to consume organic matter and convert it into more nanites. They ate the Devourer ships from the outside in, growing stronger with every bite. The largest hive ship tried to fight back. Tentacles emerged from its hull, reaching toward the Vengeance. Bioweapons that had torn apart coalition ships fired streams of acid and poison. Santos never even tried to dodge. The Vengeance's shields absorbed the attacks without effort. The ship's armor was made from materials that did not exist in nature. Human scientists had built it specifically to resist biological weapons. "Target the command centers," Santos ordered. "I want those queens to die screaming." Moore worked at her controls. The tactical display showed weak points in the Devourer ship's structure. Human intelligence had been studying these creatures for months, learning their weaknesses while the coalition begged for peace. Missiles streaked toward the enemy ships. But these were not normal explosives. They were genetic weapons, designed to target the specific DNA sequences that controlled Devourer reproduction. When they exploded, they released clouds of engineered viruses that turned the creature's own biology against them. The hive ships began to convulse and shake. Their hulls cracked as internal systems failed. The sounds they made were horrible, like giant animals dying in agony. The sounds were being broadcast on frequencies that caused panic in other Devourer swarms across the galaxy. Within 2 hours, all 3 hive ships were dead. They floated in space like enormous corpses, their bioluminescent patterns fading to darkness. Santos opened a channel to all coalition forces in the area. She knew they were watching from a safe distance, too scared to get involved in the battle. "This is Captain Santos of the Human Defense Fleet," she said. "We are taking command of all military operations against the Devourer threat. All coalition ships will follow human orders or stay out of our way." The response came from Admiral Veltar, the same alien who had laughed at Morrison's warning months ago. His voice was shaky now, full of fear and confusion. "Captain Santos, the Coalition appreciates your assistance, but we cannot simply—" Santos cut him off. "Admiral, your forces have lost every battle against these creatures. Your fleets are broken and scattered. Your worlds are being eaten one by one. You had your chance to handle this diplomatically. Now we handle it our way." She ended the transmission and turned to Turner. "Send the message to all human fleets. Operation Cleansing Fire is now active. Hunt down every Devourer ship in the galaxy. Show no mercy. Take no prisoners." Across the galaxy, human ships began their work. Colonel Danny Roberts led the assault on the Andromeda sector, where a Devourer fleet was consuming the crystal worlds of the Ethereal Collective. His ships used weapons that trapped energy beings in containment fields, then weaponized their essence against the organic invaders. Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Price commanded the boarding actions. Her teams wore armor that made them look like demons from human mythology. They carried weapons that would have been banned as war crimes if used against sentient beings. But the Devourers were not sentient in any way that humans recognized. They were parasites, and parasites had to be exterminated. Price's teams did not just kill the creatures they found inside captured ships. They sterilized every surface with fire and chemicals. They made sure that not a single cell could survive to regenerate. The Devourers' greatest strength was their ability to adapt and heal. Humans made sure they never got that chance. The Coalition tried to interfere when human forces began pursuing fleeing Devourers into neutral space. A Zephyrian battle group moved to block Colonel Tony Martinez's pursuit squadron near the Vega system. The encounter lasted exactly 17 minutes. Martinez did not destroy the Coalition ships. That would have caused a diplomatic incident. Instead, his vessels used electromagnetic pulse weapons to disable every system on the alien ships. The Coalition crews found themselves floating helpless in space, their weapons dead, their engines cold, their life support running on emergency power. Martinez opened a communication channel to the disabled ships. "This is Colonel Martinez. Your ships will be repaired and released once we have completed our mission. Do not interfere with human operations again." The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Humanity was no longer asking for permission. They were not interested in following Coalition laws or respecting territorial boundaries. They had one goal: to hunt down and kill every Devourer in existence, and they were very good at killing. News of human victories spread faster than the speed of light. Stories told of ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Tales spoke of weapons that turned living ships into dust. Reports described human soldiers who fought like demons and showed no fear of death. The Ethereal Collective tried to negotiate with the human fleet commanders. High Counselor Nexus sent diplomatic messages offering to discuss territorial agreements and rules of engagement. General Kevin Brooks responded with a single sentence: "Surrender all military authority to human command or be treated as an obstacle to our mission." The Coalition species had grown soft during their long peace. They had forgotten that some problems could not be solved with words. They had never learned that survival sometimes required terrible choices. Humans had never forgotten those lessons. Every war in human history had taught them something new about violence and death. Every genocide had shown them the importance of complete victory over their enemies. Every battle had proven that mercy was a luxury that could get you killed. The galaxy had laughed when humans warned them about the Devourer threat. They had called humans young and primitive. They had dismissed human concerns as the paranoia of a species too new to understand civilized behavior. Now those same aliens watched in terror as humans did things that violated every law of civilized warfare. They saw weapons that killed in ways that seemed impossible. They witnessed tactics that were brilliant and horrible at the same time. The Devourers had thought they were the ultimate predators. They had consumed countless worlds and other galaxies. They had never met a species that could match their hunger for destruction. They had never met humans before. Santos stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and watched another Devourer fleet die under human weapons. The creatures had adapted to every Coalition weapon they had faced. But human weapons were different. They were designed by a species that understood one simple truth: the only good enemy is a dead enemy. The hunt would continue until every last devourer was destroyed. And then humanity would make sure that nothing like them could ever threaten the galaxy again. The aliens had wanted peace and civilization. Humans would give them both, but it would be peace enforced by human weapons and civilization governed by human rules. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to live under the protection of Earth. Admiral Kevin Brooks stood in the war room aboard the UES Retribution. The ship was massive, larger than any vessel the galaxy had ever seen. Its command center was a sphere of screens and holographic displays showing every battle across the galaxy. Brooks could see human fleets hunting devourer swarms in real time. The war had been going on for 8 months now. The Coalition had managed to save some of their core worlds, but only because human forces had arrived to do the actual fighting. Every victory belonged to humanity. Every tactical success came from human planning. "Status report," Brooks said to his staff. Commander Linda Parker stepped forward. She was in charge of intelligence operations. Her job was to track every devourer ship and make sure none escaped the human hunt. "We have eliminated 93% of the original devourer fleet," she reported. "The remaining 7% are scattered across the galaxy, hiding in dead systems and empty space." Brooks nodded. The numbers were good, but not good enough. Even one surviving devourer could eventually rebuild their swarm. These creatures reproduced by consuming other life forms. A single ship could become a fleet again if given enough time and food. "What about the Coalition's request to stop the pursuit?" Brooks asked. Parker's face showed disgust. "Ambassador Veltar claims we are violating the Galactic Peace Accords by entering neutral space without permission. He wants us to respect territorial boundaries and allow Coalition forces to handle any remaining devourers in their space." Brooks almost laughed. The Coalition forces could barely handle a single damaged devourer ship. Their weapons were still useless against the creature's adaptive armor. Their tactics were based on civilized warfare between rational enemies. "Send a response to Ambassador Veltar," Brooks said. "Tell him that the Galactic Peace Accords died when his people ignored our warning. Tell him that human forces will go wherever they need to go to complete this mission." Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Price entered the war room. Her armor was still smoking from her latest boarding action. She had just returned from clearing out a devourer hive that had been hiding in an asteroid field. "Admiral," she said, "my teams have finished sterilizing the Cygnus sector. We found 3 more hive queens trying to establish breeding colonies. They won't be breeding anything ever again." Price's teams were called cleaners. Their job was to board damaged devourer ships and make sure nothing survived. They used flamethrowers, acid weapons, and genetic bombs to destroy every trace of devourer biology. Their methods would have horrified the Coalition species, but they were effective. "Any problems with the local authorities?" Brooks asked. Price smiled grimly. "The Aquatic Federation tried to stop us from entering their territory. Their patrol boats surrounded our ships and demanded we submit to inspection. And we disabled their engines and left them floating in space. Non-lethal force, just like you ordered. They got the message." Brooks was proud of his forces, but he was also worried about the future. Humanity was winning the war, but they were also making enemies. Every Coalition species was learning to fear human military power. That fear would cause problems later. Captain Roy Fisher managed the Psychological Warfare Division. His job was to break the Devourer's coordination by attacking their group mind. He had discovered that the creatures shared a telepathic network that connected all their ships. "Admiral," Fisher said, "we've successfully disrupted their hive, mine in the Perseus arm. Our psychic interference broadcasts are causing panic and confusion among the remaining swarms. The psychic broadcasts were one of humanity's most effective weapons." Fisher's teams had captured several devourer queens and studied their brain patterns. Then they had built machines that could mimic the queen's death screams and broadcast them on telepathic frequencies. The effect on other devourers was devastating. When they heard their queens dying, the creatures lost their coordination and attacked each other in panic. Human ships could then pick off the confused survivors one by one. "How are the Coalition species reacting to our methods?" Brooks asked. Fisher looked uncomfortable. "Some of them are calling our tactics barbaric. The Ethereal Collective has filed formal complaints about our use of biological weapons. The Zephyrian Empire claims we are committing genocide." Brooks felt anger rising in his chest. These aliens had done nothing to stop the Devourers when they were consuming entire worlds. They had run away and begged for peace while billions of people died. Now they criticized the humans who were actually solving the problem. Let them complain, Brooks said. When this war is over, they can thank us for saving their civilizations. Commander Danny Roberts was responsible for hunting down fleeing Devourers. His fast attack ships could travel faster than anything else in the galaxy. When Devourer scouts tried to escape to other systems, Roberts' forces would be waiting for them. Admiral, Roberts said, we've intercepted communications between several coalition governments. They're planning to form a joint fleet to limit our operations. Brooks turned to look at the main tactical display. It showed the current positions of all human forces across the galaxy. Red dots marked known Devourer locations. Blue dots showed coalition worlds that were safe because of human protection. How large a fleet are they planning? Brooks asked. At least 500 ships from multiple species, Roberts replied. They want to create safe zones where we cannot pursue Devourers without their permission. This was exactly what Brooks had been expecting. The coalition species were more afraid of human military power than they were grateful for human protection. They wanted to control humanity's war effort and force them to fight. According to coalition rules, Brooks activated the EA communication system and opened a channel to all human fleet commanders across the galaxy. All units, this is Admiral Brooks. I am implementing Protocol 7 immediately. Any coalition military vessel that interferes with our operations is to be disabled and impounded. Any government that harbors Devourer survivors will be treated as hostile. The hunt continues until every last creature is dead. Protocol 7 was the authorization for unrestricted warfare. It meant that human forces no longer had to worry about coalition laws or diplomatic protests. It meant that the gloves were coming off. Captain Tony Martinez was leading the assault on the Vega Nebula, where a large group of Devourers had tried to hide among the gas clouds. His ships used gravitational weapons to compress the entire nebula, crushing the hidden creatures inside. Admiral, Martinez reported, the Vegan authorities are demanding we stop our bombardment. They claim the nebula is a protected natural preserve. Continue the bombardment, Brooks ordered. If they want to file a complaint, they can do it after we've killed everything hiding in their pretty clouds. The coalition species had made their choice when they laughed at humanity's warning. They had chosen politics over preparation. They had chosen bureaucracy over action. They had chosen to trust in their own superiority instead of listening to the warnings of a younger species. Now they were learning the consequences of that choice. Colonel Alex Turner commanded the siege of the Draco system, where the last major Devourer fleet had taken refuge around a dying star. The creatures were using the star's radiation to power their regeneration systems. Admiral, Turner said, I'm ready to deploy the stellar collapse weapon. It will destroy the star and everything in the system. Brooks considered the request. The stellar weapon was humanity's most powerful tool. It could cause a star to go supernova, destroying everything within several light years. It would definitely kill all the Devourers in the system. It would also destroy 3 uninhabited planets that the Coalition had designated as future colony sites. Deploy the weapon, Brooks ordered. Make sure nothing survives. This was the difference between humans and the Coalition species. The aliens still thought in terms of property values and legal rights. Humans thought in terms of absolute victory and total security. The galaxy was learning that humanity did not fight wars to achieve political goals. They fought wars to completely destroy their enemies. They did not believe in negotiated peace or prisoner exchanges. They believed in extermination. Lieutenant Maria Santos had been promoted to captain after her victory at Kepler Station. Now she commanded a battle group hunting the last Devourer survivors in the Centauri sector. Admiral, Santos reported, we've cornered a group of juvenile Devourers in the asteroid belt. They're trying to surrender. Brooks felt no emotion at all when he heard this. The Coalition species would want to capture the creatures and study them. They would want to try communication and negotiation. There are no surrenders in this war, Captain, Brooks said. Kill them all. The hunt would continue until every Devourer in the galaxy was dead. Then humanity would make sure that their space was properly defended against future threats. The Coalition had proven that they could not be trusted to protect themselves or anyone else. From now on, humanity would be the guardians of galactic civilization. And human guardians did not ask permission to do their job. The aliens had laughed at humanity's warning about the Devourer threat. Now they would live in a galaxy where humanity's word was law. They would be safe and protected, but they would never again have the luxury of ignoring human advice. The hunt was almost over. Soon there would be peace in the galaxy, but it would be a... Captain Tony Martinez stood in the darkness of space watching the last Devourer Queen die. Her massive ship, once the size of a small moon, was now nothing but a cooling corpse drifting among the stars. The UES Nemesis had torn through her hull with weapons that turned living tissue into ash. "Confirm the kill," Martinez said to his weapons officer. "All biosigns are negative, Captain," came the reply. "The target is completely dead. No regeneration detected." Martinez opened a channel to Admiral Brooks on the flagship Retribution. "Admiral, this is Martinez. The last confirmed Devourer Queen has been eliminated. The galaxy is clear." There was a long pause before Brooks responded. When he did, his voice carried a weight that few people would understand. "Acknowledged, Captain. Return to base. It's time to start the new phase." The war was over. After 14 months of hunting, every single devourer in the galaxy had been found and killed. Not captured, not negotiated with, killed. The threat that had consumed over 200 worlds and killed billions of people was finally gone. But the galaxy that remained was very different from the one that had existed before the war. Admiral Sarah Johnson stood on the observation deck of the new orbital command station above Earth. The station was 10 times larger than the old New Geneva facility where humans had first warned the galaxy about the Devourer threat. Through the massive windows, she could see coalition ships following patrol routes that humans had designed for them. "Status report on the defense perimeter," Johnson said to her aide, Commander Linda Parker. "All monitoring stations are operational, Admiral," Parker replied. "We now have sensor coverage extending 500 light-years beyond the galaxy's edge. Nothing larger than a space rock can approach without us knowing about it." The human defense perimeter was a network of automated stations and weapons platforms that surrounded the entire galaxy. The technology was far beyond anything the Coalition species could understand or build. It used sensors that could detect threats across impossible distances and weapons that could destroy entire fleets with the push of a button. No alien government had been consulted about the perimeter's construction. No coalition vote had been taken. Humanity had simply built it and informed the galaxy that it existed for their protection. General Peter Collins joined Johnson at the observation windows. He was now the military governor of the Outer Rim territories, the regions that had been devastated by the Devourer invasion. "The rebuilding is going well," Collins reported. "We've relocated the surviving populations to new worlds that meet human safety standards. The old territorial boundaries have been dissolved." Johnson nodded. The Coalition species had owned those destroyed worlds, but they had proven unable to defend them. Under the new system, humanity controlled all frontier regions. The aliens could live there, but only under human protection and following human rules. "Any resistance from the former governments?" Johnson asked. Collins smiled coldly. "The Zephyrian Empire filed a protest about losing their mining rights in the Cygnus sector. I told them they could file a formal complaint with the Human Defense Council. The Human Defense Council was the new governing body for galactic military affairs. It was composed entirely of human officers and had absolute authority over all matters related to security and defense. The old Coalition Council still existed, but only to handle internal affairs within their own territories." Captain Jake Morrison entered the observation lounge. He had been promoted to admiral and was now the human liaison to the Coalition governments. His job was to explain the new reality to alien leaders who still thought they lived in the old galaxy. "The Ethereal Collective is requesting a meeting," Morrison said. "High Counselor Nexus wants to discuss the new territorial arrangements." Johnson turned away from the windows. "What does he want to discuss?" "He claims that humanity is exceeding its authority. He wants to negotiate some kind of power-sharing agreement that gives the Coalition species more control over their own defense." Johnson felt the same anger that every human leader had learned to control during the past year. These aliens still did not understand what had happened. They still thought they could negotiate with the species that had saved their entire civilization. "Schedule the meeting," Johnson said, "but make sure Nexus understands that we're not negotiating anything. We're explaining how things work now." The meeting took place in the same chamber where Morrison had first warned the galaxy about the Devourer threat. But everything was different now. Human soldiers stood guard at every entrance. Human flags hung beside the Coalition banners. Human technology monitored every conversation. High Counselor Nexus arrived with a delegation of Coalition leaders. They looked nervous and uncertain, very different from the confident aliens who had laughed at human warnings 18 months ago. Admiral Johnson, Nexus said, his energy form flickering with anxiety. We appreciate everything humanity has done to save the galaxy, but we feel that the current arrangements are too restrictive. Our species have governed themselves for thousands of years. We should have more say in our own defense. Johnson sat at the head of the conference table. Her uniform was black with silver insignia that no Coalition species recognized. Around her sat the other members of the Human Defense Council, all of them veterans of the Devourer War. Counselor Nexus, Johnson said, let me explain something to you. 18 months ago, humanity warned this galaxy about a terrible threat. You laughed at us. You called us young and paranoid. You ignored our evidence and dismissed our concerns. Nexus shifted uncomfortably. We made mistakes, yes, but you made mistakes that cost billions of lives, Johnson continued. When the Devourers arrived, your fleets were destroyed in the first week. Your worlds were consumed one by one. Your people fled in panic while humanity mobilized to save you. Ambassador Veltar spoke up from across the table. But the war is over now. Surely we can return to the old system of shared governance. Johnson stood up and walked to the main display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with human patrol routes marked in blue. Every major trade lane, every important system, every strategic location was under human protection. The old system failed, Johnson said. It failed because you prioritized politics over security. You cared more about your trade agreements than about protecting your people. You trusted in diplomacy when you should have been building weapons. She touched a control, and the display changed to show casualty figures from the Devourer War. The numbers were staggering. Entire species had been reduced to a few thousand survivors. This is what your old system accomplished, Johnson said. This is what happens when civilization is governed by committees and consensus instead of by people who understand the reality of a hostile universe, Counselor. Blix from the Aquatic Federation floated forward in her containment suit. Admiral Johnson, we understand your concerns, but surely there must be some middle ground, some way to balance human security needs with Coalition autonomy. Johnson returned to her seat. Around the table, other human officers remained silent. They had all fought in the war. They had all seen what happened when weak leaders made terrible decisions. There is no middle ground, Johnson said. There is only safety and danger, protection and vulnerability. You had your chance to lead and you failed. Now humanity leads and you follow. The alien delegates looked at each other with expressions of fear and frustration. They had come here expecting to negotiate. Instead, they were being told that they no longer had any real power. But what about our sovereignty? Nexus asked. What about our right to self-determination? General Collins leaned forward. Your sovereignty didn't protect you from the Devourers. Your right to self-determination didn't save the billions of people who died while you debated what to do. Johnson activated another display. This one showed the current positions of human military forces across the galaxy. There were more ships and bases than any Coalition species had imagined. This is your new reality, Johnson said. Humanity now controls all military operations in the galaxy. We decide where ships can go and what weapons can be built. We determine what constitutes a threat and how to respond to it. Ambassador Veltar's wings buzzed with agitation. This is tyranny! No, Johnson said calmly. This is protection. Your people are safer now than they have ever been in their history. Your worlds are defended by the most powerful military force the galaxy has ever seen. Your children will grow up in a universe where threats are eliminated before they can become dangers. She paused and looked at each alien delegate in turn. But that protection comes with a price. You no longer get to make decisions that affect galactic security. You no longer get to ignore warnings from people who know more about warfare than you do. Admiral Morrison stood up and walked to the windows overlooking the station's docking bays. Coalition ships were visible in the distance, but they were escorted by human vessels. No alien ship traveled anywhere in the galaxy without human knowledge and approval. You called us young and primitive, Morrison said without turning around. You said we would learn to appreciate civilized behavior. You were wrong. We learned something else instead. He turned to face the alien delegates. We learned that civilization is fragile. We learned that peace is not a natural state but something that